This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for June 13th, 2024. This is season 13, episode number 50. And this is episode 435 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everybody. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys are all having a great summer. It is, again, it's June 13th, and there are some things happening behind the scenes, but not a lot of things that people are seeing in the Federal Prospects Hockey League and even for the Binghamton Black Bears. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I have what I believe is going to be a very cool show for you guys. We are going to talk to somebody that there is a kind of like an evolution and a revolution in pro hockey that's been happening. And we're going to talk a little bit about just the women's side of hockey in our interview coming up. And maybe even a little bit about the ACHA, just because, of course, the Binghamton Black Bears have guys from Adrian College and another ACHA team as well. So there's definitely some stuff there to talk about with this upcoming guest, which I'm very excited about. Stephen Brown, he reached out to me about a month ago or so and said how much he liked listening to the show. And I really appreciate that. I really do. If you're somebody that has a good story and you want to be a guest on the show, it's definitely worth reaching out, because if it's something I feel that could appeal to a lot of the fans of the Power Play Post Show, I will definitely consider it. And without a doubt, I think Stephen Brown, especially with the PPHL, just crowning its first champion, the team from Minnesota, they don't really have a name yet, except for it's the professional hockey team from Minnesota. They won the first championship in the PPHL. I think they had a great start, a great brand start. And Stephen Brown is the head coach of the Troy Albany IceCats, their 19 and under girls hockey team. And he reached out. He's a guy who grew up in Binghamton and played. Actually, he was at the 89. Him and his family watched the 89-90 Binghamton Whalers. And so there's a little bit of memory for him about that season and everything. We'll talk to him a little bit about that. So there's a Binghamton connection. And, of course, I really do think that with all the ladies that we do have listening to the show, they might really appreciate talking to somebody. Now, Stephen's wife also played for the University of Vermont ladies team. So he has a lot of connection and relationship to women's hockey. And so I think this is going to be a pretty cool interview for you guys to hear. And again, it's something we can do on the outsides of the regular season of the Binghamton Black Bears, who really don't have much going on right at the moment. Not talking about much. They're definitely doing the jersey auctions on, I believe it's Dash that they're doing that. I would have to look that up and make sure that I'm correct on that, but I believe it's on Dash. But they're promoting it, and you can obviously go to their socials to see. I believe they're in event number 3 right now. They put up a lot of jerseys, but if you think about it, the Black Bears had a lot of jerseys this year. So let's get to the must-reads. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube now. That's right. You can listen to this or watch this on YouTube, I guess. Amazon Music and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to and your podcast, and subscribe. And I want to thank everybody. We've been building this up over the past year and a half, and we are starting to get some really great subscription rates. And the more you listen, and even if you do watch it on YouTube, give us a thumbs up as well, because that also helps us, here at the Power Play Post Show. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. I know it's been a little slow the last couple of weeks. We haven't really posted much, not much to post. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show and share the Power Play Post Show Facebook group with all of your friends. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And again, like I said earlier, on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, head coach of the Troy Albany IceCats 19 and under team, girls team, Steve Brown, will be on the show. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear that. So let's talk about this a little bit. Why hasn't the Binghamton Black Bears announced anything in the last month? Well, they have announced a couple things, and I think I framed it that way in this just to be a little dramatic. But there really hasn't been much to announce. They announced the protective list on May 17th, which did include forwards Tyson Kirkby, Gavin Yates, Connor Smith, Austin Thompson, Kyle Stefan, Blake Tosto, and Cam Clark. Defensemen that were protected were Dakota Bond, Dan Stone, Colin Fitzgerald, and Jesse Anderson. Now, goalie was Connor McAnanima. So those are the guys that are protected. That's 12 players. This might change based on the fact that the rules and the engagement and everything with the expansion draft has not really been finalized, and maybe it has been finalized and it just hasn't been announced to the fans. But either way, those are the ones that they announced. There might be changes, or they may allow changes, and we don't know if they're going to make any changes to that. We broke here on the Power Play Post Show on May 23rd, the return of Brant Sherwood back as head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears for a second full season. And the Black Bears are auctioning off jerseys and announced that as well. That's really all they've done over the last month, and there really hasn't been much for them to announce. But why are there no announcements happening at the moment for the Black Bears, and with a few teams making trades and signing players? Well, the Black Bears ended the season with 24 players that they basically had a relationship with, right? Some of those guys, 5 of those guys were Black Aces. 19 of those guys were the part of the playoff roster. And they essentially have those 24 guys up until the point that the expansion draft happens and 4 or 5 of those guys get selected. We don't know yet. So Coach Sherwood has a little bit of time, and I guarantee you he has his irons in a fire somewhere, talking to people, getting to go back. Because I don't think everybody is going to come back. I don't think you're going to see 20 of the 24 players be back, right? I just think there's going to be changes. You know, Kyle Stefan has a great chance of making it at the higher level. Connor Smith might try at the higher level. You never know. Connor McAnanima even said to me, hey, listen, I might try it at a higher level. So we don't know who's going to come back. So granted, some players may move on and some may return. But the uncertainty of the league's size and expansion draft has put the Black Bears in a holding pattern right now. And I completely understand. 3 new teams are in the league. The Black Bears do not know yet who will be picked up in the expansion draft and who will be returning. Players are going to try to make it to the SP and maybe even the ECHL. So turnover is going to happen no matter what. You're not going to bring back the whole team, the whole championship team. It would be nice, but it's just not practical, not in this league at this level. But recruitment and scouting is what Brant Sherwood is so good at. So I don't care if he needs the last month to do it. I think players will hold out and wait for Brant Sherwood, knowing what he's done and knowing that they have a chance to really succeed and to improve their playing ability because they could be associated with Binghamton. And also, who wouldn't want to play in Binghamton? They have great facilities. The living arrangements is really good. So with all that being said, there just isn't simply anything to report when it comes to the Black Bears right now. So that's why it's been quiet. That's why the Facebook group has not had a lot of stuff on there. Yeah, I could probably go through a few more of the championship night picks and put them up and everything, and we'll probably do that over here in the next couple weeks. It's been really busy for myself over the past few weeks. So with that being said, let's move on. The FPHL does now roll with 14 teams. So since the last time we talked, some more officialness came out when it came to some of the new teams. So let's just go through this as a nice refresher. On the Fed website, there is some changes being made. These changes are in preparation for the new season, but they give us a quick glimpse in the league and the divisions. Now, at the beginning of the week, on Monday, we saw 2 divisions of 7 teams, totaling 14. In the Empire Division, or the Northern Division, it was Binghamton, Danbury, the Dashers, because we don't know what their first name is or how they're going to name themselves at this point, but they are the Dashers. We do know that's going to happen. The Hudson Valley, Motor City, Port Huron, and Watertown. They were kind of all sitting there in the Empire Division. New for the Empire is the Port Huron Prowlers, who will be playing in their 10th season in the FPHL. We've got to give props out to the Port Huron Prowlers, who have played 10 seasons or are going to be playing 10 seasons in the FPHL. They're going to give the Dashers the run for their money of probably the most successful team in the FPHL. Maybe not with championships, but just the longevity. I think you got to give them, props for that. Them and the Dashers, as the Dashers come back, if they continue to do well, when they come back, if they do well and they continue to do well after this upcoming season, you got to really say that, Danville and Port Huron, good staples here in the FPHL. The Dashers will return after a few years' absence, and the Hudson Valley, who were bought from the FPHL and moved from Elmira to Newburgh, New York, will play as the Hudson Valley Venom. In the Continental Division, you got Athens, Baton Rouge, Blue Ridge, Carolina, Columbus, Mississippi, and Monroe. The new being Athens, who will be playing in the brand new arena being constructed now, and Monroe, who will be playing in an arena who hasn't seen pro hockey in a long time. It's kind of like the two different contrasts there, right? You got Athens, who realistically, brand new arena, going to be amazing and beautiful facility. And then you're going to have Monroe, an arena that's been used for a lot of other things, but not for hockey in over 20 years. And they're going to have some work to do to kind of get that arena up to safe. But the Monroe Moccasins are in. That's cool. Athens Rock Lobsters, they're in. The whatever they're going to call them, Dashers, they're in. And now you got Hudson Valley. Now, Hudson Valley, we're going to play in Poughkeepsie, New York, but now they're going to be playing in Newburgh, New York. That was a little bit of the catch there for that. They decided to go from Poughkeepsie to Newburgh, New York. The facility has about 450 seats right now, and they think they can expand that up to 1,600 to 2,000 seats. So we'll see what happens. We don't know exactly for sure, but that is kind of the news around the league. Now, the league site does not show the divisions anymore. As we are recording this here on Wednesday night, it doesn't show divisions anymore, but instead shows all the teams in one big 14-team conglomerate. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just kind of resetting everything up on the Fed website just because they want to debut it a little bit more as a kind of a big reveal type of thing, and totally get that without a doubt. The other thing that's interesting right now is on the Fed website, when you go to the teams section, you do see all the teams, right? You see all their logos. Hudson Valley's got their snake logo. Same thing with Monroe. So we have two snakes in the league now, which is kind of funny. Wouldn't it be interesting if Hudson Valley and Monroe made it to the finals and it was the Venom versus the Moccasins? It'd be very interesting. Just because of that, right? It'd be like if the River Sharks and the River Dragons made it to the finals. There'd be Battle of the Rivers. It'll be Battle of the Snakes. But what I found interesting on the Fed site is that right now they're listing all the teams by their city and state, right? So you have Athens, Georgia, Binghamton, New York, Wytheville, Virginia, which hopefully when they start the season, Wytheville will turn into the Blue Ridge Bobcats. It was so weird that all last season they were basically Wytheville instead of Blue Ridge, which is their name. They have Danville, Illinois, Danbury, Connecticut, Monroe, Louisiana, so on and so forth, right? So that was interesting that they kind of made that change. They do have a new logo on the site, which basically is FPHL 15 for the 15th season of the FPHL being in existence. I think, by the time they get to 20 years and about 5 more years, this is going to be a very more successful single A hockey league than the SPHL. So I've been reading up a lot of things. So one of the things that Gary Ryan just did recently was what would happen if they merged, and they, maybe they, it'd be fun to envision them merging. And when you look at the business models and the economic models of the FPHL and the FPHL is not-for-profit. I'm not really sure what that completely 100% means. I'll be honest. I'm not going to admit that I know the inner workings of the FPHL, at least not on a league-wide level, how they can claim that they're non-for-profit when owners are making money and they admit that they're making money. But maybe the league itself doesn't, but the SPHL does. So who's really getting that money? I'm not really sure. But there's two different business models. They pay their players less in the FPHL than they do in the SPHL. SPHL supposedly has better talent, better teams, better games, and that all the teams in the SPHL could probably kick the crap out of everybody in the FPHL. Well, the best way for us to really see that is to do an all-star game. Get an all-star game between the best SPHL players against the best FPHL players. Have some rules around how you select those players. I think there should be some sort of guideline. And let's see. But I think personally in 5 years, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? If we ask that to the FPHL and the SPHL, I think the SPHL might be gone in 5 years. I just do. And maybe a different league would pop up to try to compete with the FPHL, and some of those SPHL players would be forced to come play in the FPHL. And if you think about someone like Gus Ford, right? Let's talk about Gus Ford for a second and everything. He's good. He's playing in the FPHL. Why? Because he can get top money on his team, number one. He knows he's going to rack up a lot of goals, a lot of assists, a lot of points. He's a superstar here. Right, he's a big fish, and I would say a medium-sized pond. But when you put him up in the SPHL, it's a little bit different. The game is played a little bit different. Gus Ford's game plays better here in the FPHL than it does in the SPHL. Now, it doesn't mean that if the SPHL goes out in 5 years or within the next 5 years, because financially some of the teams are a wreck, some of the teams aren't doing well. But if you incorporated some of those teams into the FPHL, and the FPHL grows from 14 this year, 16 next year, maybe 20 in the next 5 years, right? So you have 20 or 22 teams, and you're all across, and you have a little bit better divisions. And, yeah, you don't play every team every single season. And I got to be honest with you, fans, I hate that. I dislike the whole notion that every hockey league feels that, or the fans in every single hockey league, we need to play every single team in the league. I want to see every single team. I want to see every single player. Oh my God, they got to come into our. You know what? Enough of that. It doesn't work. When the AHL had 8 teams back in the 70s and the early 80s, fine, I can understand that. But when you're talking about 14, 16 teams or 32 teams in the NHL, do I give a rat's ass if my New York Rangers play the Arizona Coyotes or the Utah, whatever they're going to be? No, I don't care. And it's just taking 2 games away from the Islanders, 2 games away from maybe the Rangers playing Pittsburgh or Philadelphia a little bit more, or the Devils a little bit more, and I want to see them kick the crap out of those teams. I don't care about games against Arizona or Utah or even the LA Kings, and I love the LA Kings, right? They're like my second team in the NHL. But I don't care about that, and I don't understand why fans like that so much, because it's not going to happen in the ECHL. You're not going to play every single team. You're not going to see that. Well, in the SPHL, you probably have to, because they only have 10 teams. And they're going to only have 10 teams continuing on. Either way, I'm getting a little off track here, but I think you guys are understanding where I'm going here. I just don't think that it's that big of a deal. I want Binghamton in 5 years, if they're still in the Fed and it's the top tier, single A, which I think it can be. I think the Fed and it's the way it runs itself can be better than the SP in 5 years. I think it can change. It's a matter of coaches and owners doing the right things to make that change, right? One of the things that Brant Sherwood, and I hope Brant listens to this. I know on Sunday he's heading out on a vacation with Gemma, and I hope they have a great time and everything. But I think when you have coaches like Brant bringing in smart hockey players that can play real hockey, I think you could, and if you can get other teams to do that in this league, you will build up the quality of talent in this league that you will just, not because you did anything specific, but you could beat out the SPHL. They might play a more physical game, but what if a guy is playing in the Fed and scores like Gus Ford does, and then an ECHL team says, you know what? Wow, we need a Gus Ford on our team. And they pick him, and he still produces up there. That's what's going to eventually, hopefully, happen. I know the whole Scott Darling story started in the SPHL single A and made it to the NHL and had so much success, and good for Scott Darling. I am waiting for a player in single A hockey to do the same that is a defenseman or a forward. It's going to happen. I truly believe it. Because as you know, we saw Kyle Stefan here in Binghamton. He's a Division I hockey player that was getting back into his groove, and we're not going to see him in the Fed again. I really, truly don't think Kyle Stefan is going to play in single A hockey next year. I don't think he'll play in the SP. I don't think he'll play in the FP. I think he's going to be in the ECHL. He has the skill set as a Division I hockey player, even if it was from a smaller Division I school, maybe one that a lot of people don't know of. Still, he is going to go on and do really good things. All right. I've talked way too much about stuff that I was probably not going to talk about, but I wanted to bring it up. So that's basically all the news. There really wasn't a lot of news. Hey, I said that last time we talked, right? 2 weeks ago. There really isn't that much news, but at least with the Fed news, there's a little bit more concrete, right? We know Athens is here. We know Danville or the Dashers is here, and Monroe is in, right? Great press conference. I watched that. Parker Mosko is going to run that team. It'll be very cool to see how they progress as well. And it's good for Louisiana and Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, and Baton Rouge to have Monroe there. They're going to have closer rivals. They're closer. I mean, those are big states. You have to understand that Louisiana is a bigger state than people think it is. They think, oh, it's just New Orleans. No, it's a bigger state. So, all right, coming up next year on the Power Play Post Show, I'm very excited to talk to him. He's the head coach of the Troy Albany IceCats, 19 under girls hockey team. He is Steve Brown. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buchinski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I am very excited for you to get to hear this interview. This gentleman is actually, a guy who played for Vestal here on the hockey team. He played for, I believe, BCC. Steve, am I right on that? BCC too, right?
Yeah, BCC.
So he's got ties here to Binghamton Hockey, but he also has a very cool job and something that I think is probably more important than even playing for Vestal or for BCC, and that is he is the IceCats head coach. And what is the IceCats? Well, they're up in Troy, Albany area, and they're an under-19 girls hockey team. And I think there's nothing more important than what he's doing right now, especially with the popularity of the PWHL and youth hockey has grown immensely in the United States, boys and girls, but girls really do need it more so right now, this growth and everything. So first of all, let's introduce him. He is Stephen Brown. Steve, welcome to the show. And you being a Binghamton hockey guy first, which I love, but your history and what you've done in hockey, coaching at RPI and now coaching with the IceCats under-19 team is pretty impressive. But thank you very much for joining me and coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk hockey with you, and even though I live up in the Albany area now, I still follow all the Binghamton sports. I watch the Black Bears games on YouTube. I watch the Rumble Ponies, especially now they're on SNY here and there, which is kind of cool. So it's fun getting a chance to talk to someone who I listen to on the podcast quite a bit. I
appreciate that and everything. Let's talk a little bit about you growing up. One of the first things that you told me is that you and your family were there for the 89-90 Whalers season, which is obviously goes down as maybe one of the worst seasons in AHL hockey history. However, they lost 30 of those games by maybe one goal, which was crazy in itself and everything. What do you remember? Because you were really young at that time period. What do you remember about the 89-90 season?
Well, I remember the season before, we had friends that would get tickets through work, and, they offer them to my parents, and my dad would say, you want to go? And I was 7 years old, and I'd say, no, I was 6 years old at the time. I'd say, no, I don't want to go. And then finally I said, yeah, I want to go. And we went to a game in the 88-89 season, and then we had season tickets the next year after one game. So then, we started going to the Whalers games, section 27, row C. Remember everything right off the bat. My whole family would go, and saw them go 11-60-9, I believe it was.
Oh yeah.
But got to see, players like Chris Chahaki, Darryl Ray. There was a lot. Brian Chapman, I think, was on that team. Mm-hmm. And Kay Whitmore, I think, was on that team too. And there was a lot of, it was a lot of fun, like to go to the rink and, now I remember just the organ. There was no music; it was just all organ, and which was until not that long ago. I mean, it was the last couple of years of the Rangers, but. And brass bonanza on the goals and everything, and Heart and Soul, they'd come out too, and it was pretty neat. And then my family had season tickets right through, I'd say, the 2014, I think it was, and and then my parents. I mean, we were both out. Like I moved up here in 2005, but the 2011, the Calder Cup, my wife and I actually would travel to Binghamton for all the games.
I was going to ask you because I know that in 2005 you went up to the Albany area. So you were coming down in 2011 during the Calder Cup run?
Yep. Yeah, we actually both worked here locally. I was a TA at Shaker Junior High School in Latham, and I remember even weekdays we would go down to the games, and stay at my parents' house, get up and leave at like 5 a.m. to come back up here and go back to work, and and then we watched everything everything on AHL. I think it was called AHL Live at the time.
Yep.
But we watched all the road games and everything. So it was a fun experience.
How important was it to your family that the Senators won the championship that year? I mean, it was 38 years of hockey in Binghamton, as I recite Grady Wittenberg's stuff all the time. how big was it to your family? You obviously had played, for Vestal and BCC, and your family were season ticket holders. How important was it when they did win that championship?
Oh, it was very gratifying because you think about all the time. It's not even about the money. It's all the time, right? Like, weekends where a lot of kids are out with their friends and this and that. And that was like our thing. That was our family thing where we'd go to, we'd go to Funsies back in the day or Tom Marty's.
Yep.
So all those before the games, right? But that was like, we'd go have family dinner somewhere and then go to the game. And just all that time that was invested. And, all the heartbreaks, like thinking back to Game 7 against Rochester, I think it was 92, 93.
Yeah.
Was one of the saddest hockey moments of my life.
Me too.
When that happened, I remember running out of the arena really upset. But,
yeah.
It was very gratifying, even, watching it from afar. And my friend of mine, funny story, so when Coach Sterling was, when he got sick,
yep,
my friend that I sat next to for years, I still talk to all the time, and he's a Black Bears season ticket holder. He went down to Houston for the final game, and the sign that they said, "Get well soon, Coach Sterling," he actually made that.
Oh, wow.
That was his sign. So he offered it to the organization when they were out celebrating, and it was a cool thing, but it was very gratifying for me, just from all the time and everything invested. Even though I was a couple hours away, we still tried to make it to everything. Now with kids, it's a little bit harder, so
yeah.
The YouTube feed is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And, of course, it's an AHL broadcast for a federal Prospects Hockey League team, which is pretty crazy. Youth hockey in Binghamton has grown so much, from the early days when there wasn't a girls team for the girls to play on. But even for you, talk a little bit about youth hockey and what it was like when you started playing.
It was actually like from the co-ed side. I mean, there weren't tons of girls involved, but from the co-ed side, it wasn't bad. I think hockey had started to grow. I started at 8 years old in the FPHL.
Mm-hmm.
Played right up through when I was 18. I was very lucky to have fantastic, coaches my entire time in the ACHA and not ACHA. I'm sorry, the FPHA.
Yep.
Hopefully, I was a fantastic coach in the ACHA, but in the FPHA and fantastic teammates. I made a lot of friends through it, and I shout out to my high school coaches, which were Bob Schursch, Bob Lavish, Ken Baker. They were probably the best, crew I ever played for in hockey, and I learned so much from them just about life and the game, and I had some really good coaches throughout the years, and that's kind of, and then I went up to hockey school up in Guelph, Ontario quite a bit, and got to spend time with a lot of different high-level hockey people, and, it's just I have no regrets from my childhood growing up playing hockey, and, I wasn't a travel player. I did 1 year of travel for the Junior Rangers, but I enjoyed the house league side because it just, our house league in Binghamton was actually really good because we only had, one travel team per level, but
yep.
It was run so well, and, I enjoyed every minute of it and learned a lot and met connections that I still have, and whether it's just on Facebook or if I'm in town and I get to see them. I went to I played in the FPHA alumni event that they had last year, and that was just really cool to see, a lot of people that I grew up with there. So, I have no complaints about any of my experience in Binghamton, and then obviously just going to the arena every weekend from when I was 8 years old on, and getting yelled at for playing cup hockey, which I don't think they probably do anymore. But we used to run all over the place, and it really was a lot of fun. There's some of the best memories I have in my life.
So tell me about the story about going up to SUNY Albany, because part of it is you met your wife, who played in the same organization that you're now coaching on the girls' side, and that's to me it's so interesting how because you obviously you coached and worked with RPI for 5 years or 4 or 5 years, and now you're doing this. Troy Albany Youth Hockey, people would probably not understand that, even though they don't have the River Rats, they don't have the Albany Devils anymore, there's still a lot of youth hockey up in that area, right? So tell us a little bit of the story about getting up to the Albany area, how that happened. You meet your wife. She played a year with the University of Vermont and everything. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I came up here to go to SUNY in 2003. I graduated in 2005. And then I'm not, I always wanted to coach, and I did a lot of summer camps and things like that. So I got involved in a local association here, just helping out, and then did a bunch of different teams, and I went through my growing pains as a hockey coach, especially when you're dealing with parents and things like that. It really takes a lot of experience to be able to do it well when you're not a parent of a player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned my trade there. Then I got really into it. I started going to the AHCA Coaches Conference in Naples, Florida. I went to the NHL Coaches Conference a couple of years. I worked up at Stars Hockey Camp in Guelph, Ontario for many, many years to coach, and I'm actually going up to Lake Placid this year to work for Can-Am, which was the parent company of our camp there, in a couple weeks. And, then I ended up coaching varsity high school up here for 2 years. And then Siena College, ACHA, wanted to start a D3 ACHA program, and they contacted me and asked me if I wanted to get that going for them. And I got that going for them. And after a year, we had a great season. We went 17-4-1. Lost in the regional to Fredonia. Had a fantastic season. I still talk to a lot of those players. But just from a funding standpoint, they were only able to do the one team the following year. Then my next journey, I went back to youth hockey for a year at Schenectady, actually. And then I ended up coaching the CD Select Junior B team in the Empire League up here for a year. And one of the cool stories about that was I remember coaching against Jack Eichel. He was in that league as a 16-year-old at the time, and it was pretty neat experience. And then I got recruited to trying to be an assistant at RPI after that. And the rest is pretty much history. I spent 12 years with the ACHA program at RPI, from a volunteer assistant to, an assistant to an associate coach to the head coach, which I did for 4 or 5 years. We won our first ever conference championship.
Nice.
With that program, and hired staff. The people were fantastic that I worked with.
Steven, can I stop you for a second? Yeah. Just let me ask you, obviously the Black Bears had 4 or 5 guys that played the same level of hockey as you were coaching there. Have you seen an increase in the talent level come into RPI, or that level of hockey? Because people talk about club hockey all the time as it's not good and everything. And obviously the Black Bears and Adrian College obviously have clearly, shown that it can be very good hockey. And hockey players are now starting to play pro hockey coming out of that conference.
Yeah, actually, UMass Amherst was a team that we played a lot, and I saw they have a guy from them that I coached against playing on the Baton Rouge team, I think.
Yeah.
In the Fed. But the talent increased tenfold, and I think a lot of that came just through the marketing of the ACHA and just the level of facilities and coaching and support that schools started to give these programs. Because at the end of the day, these kids are all paying for school, right? So if you're recruiting and you could bring in 25, 30 students, it's a big thing. And, I was really impressed over, I'd say, the last 4 or 5 years. I probably saw the biggest growth of talent in the ACHA. I was doing all my recruiting, and I had 3 recruits that was close. They were close to coming to play for us in the ACHA, and one went to the BCHL, which was pretty high level junior A hockey in Canada. Yep. One went to the CCHL, which is the same thing, but more on the Quebec side. And another one went to the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. So, those were kind of the people we started going after. And, you always have to aim high. And I think that's one thing that a lot of the coaches are doing now, because that competition level is increasing. And the more that happens in the ACHA, the better, just like any league, the better opportunities there are going to be for these players after college as well.
Without a doubt. So from RPI, what got you hooked up with the IceCats? What was the decision-making process for you to go and be a part of this program? I know you guys have I think the first camp ever, right, for this program coming up in August and everything. So what got you to come to the IceCats and to be a part of this?
Well, I was done. I left RPI because my boys were 6. They're 6 and 8 now, and I kind of was done living on. A lot of coaches will say living on buses and hotels. I just didn't want to do it anymore. But they play in the Troy Albany Hockey Association, the Mike program, and the director of the Troy Albany IceCats, Rich Scammell, was my wife's coach when she played for them, and he's still involved. And they were looking for a coach to help out with their 16U team. The numbers weren't great, but they had enough girls to make a team, and they needed someone to. So they asked me if I wanted to help out with that, and when I talked to my wife about it and said, let's do that. That'd be fun. Get into the women's game. Something I haven't done before. I've really enjoyed every second of it. Last year I learned a lot. We had our tough times, but we had a lot of great memories. And then, this year I took over the 19U team. And since I started last year, we've hired 7 really high-end, all-female coaches.
Nice.
They all played Division III. Actually, a couple of them played Division I NCAA. And so what we're trying to do is just give these girls I like to say, I know the only thing I ever promise is I will do my best to give players every resource possible to improve and develop and do what they want to do. And that's one thing I could say we've done in a very short amount of time. We've partnered up with, we've made sure we're present with our 10U practices and our 8U practices for the girls, make sure that our players are in there. And we've also set up we have a partnership with Hoosac Prep School that we've grown. So kind of neat because this year I'll have players from North Carolina, Montreal, Massachusetts, along with many, 10 or 11 local players as well.
Is it hard to
pretty good? But I've really enjoyed it. It's considered youth hockey, but these girls want a chance to improve and develop, and a lot of them are looking to get into the NCAA. So that's what we're working to do, and giving them every opportunity to do that. And it's been fun, to have my wife bring my kids to the games and see her interact with her old coach, and it's just a lot of, brings back a lot of memories for her and her mom, and it's just a cool thing overall.
Well, you've probably talked to your wife about this. Youth hockey for women, for girls, has just grown so much, maybe even so much in the last 10 years, and I'm just kind of curious, what have the conversations been like with your wife, who obviously played hockey collegiately and, of course, youth-wise, the changes? Can you kind of describe how it's changed and grown? Because I think, as you were kind of mentioning before, maybe 20 years ago there was a lot of co-ed, and now there's enough girls that you can build these 2 or 3 or 4 teams tiered based on age and everything, to be able to field full teams and everything. And that's something that just wasn't there 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say when my wife played, there was Adirondack and Clifton Park, which there still is. We have 3 programs around here. But it wasn't, the IceCats were the ones who were getting all, a lot of the players that were going to make it. And if you go to our website, there's a whole list of alum and where they played, and it's pretty neat. But the competition wasn't what it is now. So now, there's, I'd say most areas with associations have, a girls program as well. And a lot of them are very, very good. And the thing is, it's grown to the point where you have the Tier 1 girls and the Tier 2 girls. And, we're Tier 2, but I've seen a lot of players on even the teams we played against last year at the U16 or 16U level, that with some development can easily play, at least D3 in the NCAA. And I think there's a lot more resources now too, and that's same thing like I talked about with the ACHA. As women's hockey has grown, coaches have developed, players have more resources. They're more competition. So everything like that, I think, helps bring that along, and then obviously the when the P-Dubs came out, even though they had the NWHL and the CWHL, when the P-Dubs came out, it was something that, I know last year I had players that their parents would say, previously, she played hockey because she liked it, but she wasn't really, it wasn't on her mind, like a serious way. But now she's really into the, PWHL and watching all these games, and it's all she could talk about. And there's so many great players in the PWHL, and if you look at the draft that they just had, there's a lot of really, obviously they're all high-end players if they're getting drafted to there, but there's a lot of players who I think are going to define our national teams in the U.S. and Canada at least over the next several years as some of the older ones age out. And, these are, the nice thing is, like, here, and even in the Binghamton area, because, it's 3 hours down to New Jersey, I know there's a lot of girls from here that go to the Boston games because they play out of Lowell, or they go to the New York games at Prudential Center, especially. Yeah. And I have one of my neighbors is one of our 10U players for the IceCats. And I know she's super, like, she can't get enough PWHL watching it, and her parents took her probably to 3 or 4 games this year, and I think that's going to help increase the visibility of girls and the opportunities to play, because as that league expands, you think about maybe 3 or 4 more cities that they go into, those programs, any girls programs, they're going to go nuts.
Well, let me ask you this question. Why does the PWHL feel different than any other professional leagues? Have you gotten a feeling from just you paying attention to it, your wife paying attention to it, or even some of the girls that you've coached? Why does the PWHL feel different than the previous leagues? Because to me, it just feels completely different. And I think a little bit, they're probably waiting for that Caitlin Clark, right? The Caitlin Clark type of player to come into the PWHL, because, what Caitlin Clark is going to do for the WNBA is going to be pretty amazing. And the same thing with Reese, who also came in this class as well for the WNBA. But I think they're waiting for that. But what feels different about the PWHL for you, and from the aspect of you being around, obviously, your wife, who probably watches, and of course, some of these girls that watch, what feels different about this league? Because to me, it feels different.
Yeah, from the previous, there was competition previously, so there wasn't really a unified women's league. Now, this league, has the backing, and not only do they have the backing, they have the financial backing, but they also have the visibility, right? So with the TV, with like stuff's on MSG, stuff's on TSN. Obviously Billie Jean King being involved is huge.
Yep.
And I think it's just more organized and put together, and then a lot of it just comes down to communications and promotion as well. And I think it's got a little bit bigger staff. Obviously, the union was able to, is another big reason I think that this is working out so well, because the players now, there's just like the NHLPA or the CHPA, right? There's standards that teams have to have and cities have to have, whether it comes to financial or just, what facilities offer, and TV and everything. And I think that's the difference. And I mean, I remember I had a friend who coached in the CWHL for Toronto, and I wanted to watch. I watched this game when they were in Boston, I remember, and I'm trying to find it online somewhere, but now this is just it's
the visibility.
Have a lot more visibility and a lot more backing.
Yeah.
And,
do you
money
think
talks, money helps.
No, it does. And do you think it's going to help your job and other people in the same position as you to be able to get girls to come play hockey a lot more because the PWHL is being run differently? And I got to be honest with you, I turned on the Minnesota Boston series, and I was blown away by the energy, the production value, the talent on the ice. It was just different than, like I said, I've seen before. Is that going to help your job be a little bit easier, or maybe even a little bit tougher, because you're going to have potentially more girls wanting to play hockey?
Yeah, I think more girls are going to be. Let me rephrase that. I think there's plenty of girls this day and age that want to play hockey, but sticking with it and making it so it's there's not as many on the co-ed teams. Like, the girls programs become better.
Yeah.
And you start giving that place that they can play and get a little more visibility, because it's not that easy when you turn 14, 15 to get the same visibility when you're playing on a co-ed team.
Sure.
So when you go to these girls programs, I think they're going to get. It's going to raise the level of play for all these programs, and you look at the one in Binghamton. Like, people are that's going to grow. I know the president of the Binghamton Association. We're going to try to set up games with our 16U team and their 14U team, I think, next year. I've been talking to him, but when you as a coach, what's going to happen though with more programs and better programs is if you get like girls that have the stuff, and then they might not stick with you if you're a Tier 2 or Tier 1 program as long. They might want to go play prep school, which we're starting to see a little bit now, or go play. There's a lot of junior teams at the on the female side as well now, and but the great thing about that is that means there's room for more. And
sure.
The great thing about hockey is that you always hear hockey is for everyone. And it is for everyone. Hockey is for everyone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's just such a great game to be a part of, and to make connections and make friends and have family night outs. And I mean, one of the best things when I played travel was just having those weekends with my dad when we were on the road. And now there's more opportunities for everyone, right? So it's just a great thing overall. And hockey is for everyone, and that's what this is allowing it to do.
Now, talk a little bit about the 2024 girls hockey camp that you guys are putting on. RPI Houston Fieldhouse in Troy, New York. I believe this is the first time you guys are putting on something like this. What are you hoping to gain out of this, and what are you hoping the girls gain out of this?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for asking. We're doing this as a fundraiser. Actually, for the IceCats program, there's some different things that we want to get and be able to do for the girls this year. So what we're doing is, and I got to give credit to a close friend of mine who runs a junior women's London Devilettes team out in London, Ontario. But he gave me the idea, and what we're going to do is it's going to be a full-day camp. We have two groups, 8 to 16 years old, and we'll split them based on age. And we'll have 3 hours of on ice a day and 5 hours of off ice a day. And we're going to take half the profits and put them into the camp for next year, and the other half is going to go into the IceCats program so we can offer more things for the girls. And the cool thing about it, so we were lucky enough to bring in Christy Cicero, formerly of RPI. She was the assistant coach there, and she's going to be working with our staff this year. and she's fantastic. And she's going to be an instructor with us, with myself. And Allie Sugar, who's the head coach for the women's team at Hoosac Prep School, is going to be our other instructor. And then our counselors are actually going to be our 19U players.
That's
so they're
so
all we're all volunteering. So they're all volunteering. I have about 6 or 7 players, so they'll get to work with the younger girls. We're open to. You don't have to play and be part of Troy Albany Hockey Association to be part of the camp, but you're going to get a jersey with the IceCats logo on it, and we'll do it at RPI, which is the Houston Fieldhouse, great facility, and we do a lot of our practices out of there as well during the season. So, the girls are going to get basically an 8-hour full day. They're going to get power skating. They're going to get puck skills. They're going to get, conditioning, a lot of conditioning. They're going to get competitive play. So, obviously not full check, but we're going to teach how to do things properly and safely. And, the most important thing, though, is we hope the girls have a great time and make some good friends and meet some new people and continue to get interested. So, we're capping at I think 48 girls, total. And then hopefully another year from now we'll grow it, and we'll try to get some current RPI players to come help out as well.
That's so very cool. And, as somebody who's been to camps himself as a young youth hockey player, and you yourself, how important these camps are. Even if you don't make a team, or if it's not about making a team or whatever, the information about hockey, the information about playing, about how to take care of your body, things of that nature, all that is important in these camps. It's the knowledge that can be spread. Sometimes you make a friend who's the same age as you that maybe you don't go to school with, and then you guys trade information. There's so much good that can come out of these camps, as you know. So I'm so glad you guys are doing this, and these are the type of things that I think is going to help grow the game of hockey even more so, not just for boys but for girls as well. And I think it's pretty cool. And you need to pat yourself on the back for doing something like this. This is a great thing for that area of New York State, and even for anybody that comes from out of state or from anywhere around the Troy Albany area. This is a great thing, and again, like I said, you should pat yourself on the back for that. It's definitely something that needs to happen more throughout the country.
No, thank you very much, and yeah, we're just excited about it, and we're going to do our best to make sure the girls have an unbelievable experience, and that's what it's all about, and just having fun, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. We don't, we're not getting paid millions of dollars to do this as coaches. I help out with my kids' MITE program as well, and at the end of the day, I don't care if they play AAA or they play C-level hockey. It doesn't matter to me, as long as they're getting exercise with their friends and having fun and learning something. That's what it's all about.
Before I let you go, obviously the Binghamton Black Bears won the Commissioner's Cup this year. I know you said you paid attention. You watched on YouTube. You and I talked a little bit before we went on the air. You had mentioned 5,011 fans. The first time ever in Binghamton hockey history that the team pushed over 5,000. I don't know where they sat those people. I only can imagine that they were cramped up in the boxes that they have. But talk a little bit about your thoughts on the Black Bears, the winning the championship, how Andreas has really come in. And I don't want to necessarily saved hockey. I've said it to him multiple times that he's saved hockey here in the Binghamton area after the Devils left. Because the Devils go in, they wreak their havoc in a city, and then they leave, and the city and the hockey fans have to pick up Lowell, Albany, Binghamton. They've done it. They did it in Utica. They're now back in Utica. We'll see if that stays okay and everything. But talk a little bit about the Black Bears and Andreas and what you think they've done just so well here.
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting, and I've watched the last, since the Black Bears started, and before that, I followed everything, and the great thing about the FPHL is just the YouTube feed. Makes it easy to watch at night, and it's great to see over 5,000 fans at the arena, and I think, like we were talking earlier, the one thing that is consistent with Binghamton hockey, since I've been going, whether it was the Whalers, the Rangers, the Icemen, the Sens, and the Black Bears, and even the Devils, because Tom Mitchell was involved in that. Is ownership is huge, right? Like it's always had great, consistent ownership, and ownership that knows their area. Like Binghamton is a community that wants players out in the community, that wants to interact. When I was a kid, same thing. Like you always wanted to interact with these players and have those relationships with them, and that's something I think the Black Bears have just gone above and beyond with, and obviously they've, like, what did Andreas say? We're all one big family, right? And that's something that definitely holds true. And it all comes down to, getting out there and, forming those relationships and getting that camaraderie going within the community. Because, at the end of the day, like, Federal League team could come in, it had its reputation, whatever, although it's getting much better. But if, an owner could come in and do things, at half the level that you should, or to be a little corrupt. I mean, we've seen it in every league at different levels. And it's just they're trying to make a buck, and that doesn't work. Now, like what Andreas has done and what the coaching staff has done there, and everyone involved is just, it's a lot of fun to follow and a lot of fun to watch. It really doesn't matter the level of hockey. It matters that the players are good and they're successful and they are out there and make sure that they're part of the whole area as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Steven, good luck this year with your IceCats and the under-19 team. I hope you guys have a successful camp coming up here in about a month away. And I really hope the success continues on with the IceCats and just the Troy Albany Hockey Association. It's great. If there's anybody that understands the importance of these youth hockey associations, it's you, right? I mean, you played here in the Binghamton area. You are part of this hockey community, and now you're helping Troy Albany, which has already been around for a long time. The TAHA has been around for a long time. So you're just adding to the legacy of continuing to grow these programs and everything. So good luck the rest of the way. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. I do just want to say,
sure,
all the interviews that you've done, that I've been able to listen to, and it's been great. And it's nice to have, I call you the hockey historian. It's nice to have that, to be able to listen and listen to people share their stories about the area and what their life was there. So
yeah, I appreciate
it's been a lot
that.
of fun.
I appreciate that. I do like telling people stories. I didn't realize until this last year that's what I was doing with a lot of the interviews that I've done over the years. So many of the AHL players have come on to my show, and I've kind of told their story like I told the Black Bears this year. And, I want to do more of them as new players come in, maybe some players from other teams in the Fed and everything. But it's really been probably – if I could say, oh, what's Bob's legacy? Bob's legacy is he tells other people's stories. And I really do appreciate that some people have started to take notice of that. So I thank you for those comments. It really does mean a lot to me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And keep it up, because I'll keep listening on my end as well. And I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to chat a little bit. I have a lot of passion for, just hockey in Binghamton and just hockey in general. It's been a huge part of my life. So,
well, I think it's important. I think you have a great story. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that, you youth hockey player here in Binghamton, have coached, college hockey, and now you're helping grow, again, a part of the game that really needs the help to grow. The ladies programs, and with the PWHL becoming the primary now, I think it's very important. So again, Stephen, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And
night.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.